The United States Congress has formally confirmed Joe Biden's victory in the presidential election. Some Republican congressmen objected to the certification in a handful of states, but those objections were heavily defeated. President Trump has now tweeted via a spokesman that there will be an orderly transition of power on January the 20th, although he still disagrees with the result. On Wednesday, proceedings were halted when Congress was overrun by a violent group of Mr. Trump's supporters, angry at what they considered to be a rigged election. 4 people died in the violence. President-elect Joe Biden said American democracy had been subjected to an unprecedented assault. Speaking in his home state of Delaware, Mr. Biden said the storming of the Capitol by Mr. Trump's supporters bordered on sedition.
In Washington, supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump attack and occupy the Capitol building, stopping members of Congress from counting electoral votes. Hong Kong police say they have arrested 53 opposition members during raids under a new national security law. A U.S. lawyer is among those detained. Julian Assange, the founder of website WikiLeaks, is denied temporary release from prison as he awaits trial in Britain. And the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, Theophilus III, arrives to celebrate the Eastern calendar's Christmas at midnight.
We begin here in Japan, where the government has declared a state of emergency for Tokyo and 3 neighboring prefectures in an attempt to curb the rise in coronavirus cases.
The rapid spread of COVID-19 across the country has created a situation that could have a serious impact on people's lives and the economy. Therefore, I hereby declare a state of emergency based on the antivirus law.
The declaration will cover Tokyo, Kanagawa, Saitama, and Chiba prefectures. It'll go into effect on Friday and remain in place until February 7th. A state of emergency is less strict in Japan than in many Western countries. Prefectural governors will have the legal authority to urge residents to cooperate with prevention efforts. Bars and restaurants will be asked to close by 8 p.m. and to stop serving alcohol an hour earlier. Residents will also be asked to refrain from non-essential outings after 8 p.m. Companies will be asked to encourage remote work and reduce the number of staff in their offices by 70%. The number of spectators at live events will be limited to half of the available seats and no greater than 5,000. Schools, however, will not be asked to close. Following the declaration, the Prime Minister held a news conference to ask for cooperation.
The coronavirus pandemic is becoming worse than we had ever imagined, but I believe we can overcome the situation. To accomplish this, we have no choice but to ask you to once again restrict your lifestyle. We are determined to improve the situation within the next month. As Prime Minister, I will do my utmost and take every possible measure to prevent the spread of infection.
Suga added the government hopes to start vaccinations by late next month. He also said he's determined to hold the postponed Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics in the summer.
The government should have taken the step much earlier.
I wonder whether everybody will stay home just like the last time a state of emergency was declared.
The declaration comes amid a surge in daily cases. On Thursday, new daily cases in Japan surpassed 7,000 for the first time. About half of that figure comes from the Tokyo area, including a record 2,447 new cases in the capital. Elsewhere, Osaka and Aichi prefectures are also struggling with rising new infections. Governors there are considering asking the central government to declare a state of emergency for their prefectures. But the Prime Minister says it's not necessary at this point. With infections rising across the country, the government has also extended the suspension of a popular domestic travel subsidy campaign to February 7th. U.S. Congress has officially certified Joe Biden's presidential election win. The development comes just hours after Washington erupted in chaos when supporters of President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol. A joint session of Congress counted the votes of the 538 electors.
Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Biden won more than the 270 votes needed to win the presidency. He'll be inaugurated the 46th President of the United States on January 20th. Shortly after the certification, Trump issued a statement through his White House staffer. Trump said that even though he totally disagrees with the outcome, there will be an orderly transition. Those words were an abrupt change from earlier in the day when Trump urged his supporters to help overturn the results. Mobs charged past police barricades and flooded onto the balcony. They later smashed their way into the chambers of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Police say 4 people died on the Capitol grounds and several officers were injured. Trump has been roundly castigated for inflaming the riot. Hours after the chaos began, the president released a video on Twitter asking the crowd to go home. But he stopped short of criticizing the siege and repeated his baseless claims of mass voter fraud. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has condemned Wednesday's arrests of over 50 pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. Pompeo suggested Washington will take measures against those involved. In a statement, Pompeo called the roundup an outrage and a reminder of the Chinese Communist Party's contempt for its own people and the rule of law. He said Washington will consider sanctions on those involved in executing this assault on the Hong Kong people. On Wednesday, Hong Kong police arrested 53 people on suspicion of subversion in violation of the national security law. It's the biggest crackdown since the law was enacted in June of last year. China's foreign ministry said Pompeo's comments represented a serious interference in the country's internal affairs. It also said Beijing will take all necessary steps to resolutely safeguard its sovereignty and security interests. China has notified countries on the lower Mekong River that it'll reduce the water flow to allow maintenance of its electricity grid. Environmental NGOs have warned that a sharp drop in river water levels will have a serious impact on the river. The Mekong River Commission, an intergovernmental organization comprising Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam, said it received the notification on Tuesday. The notification came as part of a new data sharing pact that China and the Mekong countries agreed to in October. It says the water discharge from a Chinese dam to downstream countries would drop to 1,000 cubic meters per second, almost half of the normal flow. The Commission Secretariat says data sharing could assist future forecasts for the river, which people in the basin rely on in their daily lives.
Data sharing from upstream is crucial in terms of knowing the river conditions downstream and how that may or may not affect the livelihoods and dependent livelihoods downstream.
But Beijing's notification was received 5 days after the drop in outflow was first detected by a U.S.-funded monitoring organization, Mekong Dam Monitor, on December 31st. The organization criticized China for failing to notify the downstream countries. In recent years, falling water levels has become a serious issue in the lower basins. It's been pointed out that this is related to the upstream dams. A local NGO in Thailand says the reduced water supply will be devastating to the river's ecosystem and to local livelihoods, especially in the dry season. North Korea's state-run media are reporting that leader Kim Jong-un pledged to increase defense capabilities on the second day of the ruling Workers' Party Congress. Korean Central Television reported that this came in a speech Kim gave on Wednesday. It says Kim clarified the important duty of protecting the security of the country and its people along with a peaceful environment by placing the state defense capabilities on a much higher level. The report added that Kim has put forth goals for realizing this, but did not say what those goals were. The state-run media reported that the party Congress, which opened on Tuesday, would continue on Thursday. One focus of the Congress is whether Kim would refer to the future direction of his country's nuclear and missile programs. Another is whether Kim will outline his policies on relations with the U.S. just before President-elect Joe Biden takes office. Some parts of Japan are enduring gale-force winds and snow. The rough weather has been brought by a rapidly developing low-pressure system. Authorities are urging people to stay vigilant. In some northern areas, the snowfall is already 3 times the seasonal average. The low-pressure system could bring blizzards and more heavy snow.
The snow is incredible. I wish it wasn't snowing so much. But I hear we are in for more.
The snow has damaged property. Part of a workshop building collapsed in the city of Yokote in Akita Prefecture. The prefectural government says 11 people have died while clearing snow during the past month. Gusty winds also caused damage across wider areas. A solar panel fell and crushed several vehicles in the city of Sano, just north of Tokyo. 5 trucks tipped over in the city of Niigata. 1 person was slightly injured. The wind severed power lines across Niigata Prefecture, causing a blackout for thousands of homes. The stormy weather has also affected public transportation. Parts of about 10 highways are closed, and on Thursday more than 500 flights were canceled. Authorities are urging people to take extra care through the weekend. And in world weather, our meteorologist Jonathan Oh has more on what's ahead for Japan through the next few days.
Hello, looks like that we're going to still be dealing with winter weather as we go into Friday. We have been dealing with this pattern over the past few days, especially for the northeastern portion of Japan. But as we went through Thursday, the snow really did spread farther toward the west in places like Hiroshima Prefecture, seeing a little bit of snowfall, and a lot more snow will be taking place as we go through Friday. We do have this northwesterly pattern that continues to roll over Japan, and as it does so, we'll see the snow, especially on the mountainous areas, but even in the lower lying areas, there's enough moisture and cold air to where this pattern will continue. 48-hour model forecast showing us that northwesterly flow continues, with the snow being persistent along the Sea of Japan side of the nation, but we're also seeing snow chances also down toward even the Pacific side of the country. Here's a look at the forecast here. Over the next 3 days, we can still see an additional 290 centimeters or up to 290 centimeters of snowfall in the Hokuriku region, 170 centimeters of snowfall into the Tohoku and Hokkaido portions of Japan. But even into the western portions of the country, we'll be seeing some decent amount of snowfall taking place. Sapporo seeing some snow. Tokyo, windy day, and it was chilly outside. We'll see single-digit highs for the next few days. It will definitely be much colder. Fukuoka still seeing some snow chances as we go toward the weekend. Meanwhile, in India, the southern areas of the country doesn't look like they've actually gotten out of the monsoonal pattern here. We're still seeing a decent amount of rain impacting places like Tamil Nadu, and we'll still see some more rain coming up as we go through Friday. So be on the lookout for that. Showers can be as high as north near Mumbai as well as we go through Friday. Chennai looking at 30, even in Sri Lanka and Colombo looking at a chance for some rain and thunderstorms, a high of 31 degrees for Friday. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.